Welcome to this explainer. Look, we're going to break down exactly how Japan's national football team, famously known as the Samurai Blue, has transformed into a legitimate, undeniable global powerhouse heading into the 2026 World Cup. We aren't just talking about a team that's happy to be invited to the party anymore. No way. We're looking at a tactical juggernaut that has methodically, step by step, planned its ascent to the absolute top tier of international football. Right, let's dive into this totally fearless mindset set by head coach Hajime Moriyasu. To really grasp the weight of that statement, you kind of need the backstory. He dropped this line right after Japan's historic pre-tournament victory over England at a completely sold-out Wembley Stadium. It was a 1-0 win where they didn't just barely survive a European giant, they executed a completely surgical game plan. Honestly, it isn't arrogance at all. It's a quiet, calculated confidence that is totally born from actual results on the pitch. 24. Let that sink in for a second. That is the staggering number of goals Japan scored during their perfect 6-win run in the second round of AFC qualifying. But here is the absolute terrifying part for anyone playing them. They did the whole thing without conceding a single goal. 0. Zilch. The sheer terror of stepping onto the pitch against a team with a plus 24 goal difference is pretty hard to overstate. Oh, and then they went and put 7 goals past China in the very next round. This level of total dominance in Asian football is basically unprecedented, and it really sets the stage for our analysis today. Okay, so here is the roadmap for this explainer. 1. The rise of the Samurai Blue. 2. Mastering the chameleon tactic. 3. Analyzing the 2026 squad. 4. Overcoming major injury setbacks. 5. Navigating Group F. And finally, 6. The ultimate World Cup destiny. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the rise of the Samurai Blue. From grateful participants to giant slayers. Their explosive rise becomes super obvious when we track their historical evolution on football's biggest stage. So back in 1998, their World Cup debut in France was really just a statement of arrival. They lost all 3 games, but, the seed was planted. Then, fast forward to co-hosting in 2002 and again in 2010, and they finally broke through to the round of 16. Now, skip to Qatar 2022, they literally stunned the world, coming from behind to defeat former world champions Germany and Spain. They've evolved from a complete afterthought in '98 to literal giant slayers. Talk about perfectly setting up some massive expectations for 2026. Which brings us right to the strategic genius powering this whole machine. Section 2. Mastering the chameleon tactic. Hajime Moriyasu's tactical masterclass. So the real secret sauce here is Japan's totally unique ability to completely change their footballing identity based entirely on who they're playing. It's called the chameleon philosophy. Moriyasu is what you might call a pragmatic progressive. See, traditional Japanese football loves short, intricate passing, but this chameleon approach means they aren't married to just one style. If they're up against a mid-tier team, they'll hold the ball, dictate the play, and run the show. But against a global giant, they'll happily drop into a super disciplined, low defensive block. Just absorb all that pressure and strike back with absolute lethal speed. Down on the pitch, this signature 3-4-2-1 structure is basically the engine of the Samurai Blue. You've got a back 3 absorbing the pressure. Then your wingbacks are out there doing serious double duty, shielding the defense 1 second, flying forward to attack the next. In the middle, a double pivot circulates the ball and locks down the center of the park. Then it gets fun. You have 2 shadow strikers floating dangerously right between the opponent's defensive lines, all while a single central striker acts as the trigger for the high press. The whole thing relies entirely on collective intelligence. It's not just about one superstar carrying the whole team on their back. Defensively, it is just as calculated. Unlike those chaotic teams that just run wildly at the ball and leave gaping holes behind them, Japan uses this highly organized step-by-step pressing system. Step 1, they force you wide toward the touchline. Step 2, they trap your passes right there in those congested areas. Step 3, they win the ball back using incredibly disciplined cover. And then, boom. Step 4, they transition to the attack with devastating speed. It's literally surgical. Now, to actually pull off a system this demanding, you need some seriously elite personnel. Let's look at Section 3, Analyzing the 2026 Squad, a European pedigree core. Moriyasu has somehow assembled the most globally tested, European experienced squad in Japanese football history. Just look at these clubs. Takefusa Kubo at Real Sociedad in Spain is the absolute creative heartbeat, bringing that famous La Masia train flair. Wataru Endo is locking down the midfield at Liverpool, providing world-class balance and totally calm leadership. At the back, you've got Ajax's Takehiro Tomiyasu and Bayern Munich's Hiroki Ito, bringing top-tier European physicality and technical grace to the defense. And in goal, Zion Suzuki, who is just dominating in Serie A with Parma. These guys bring a deep understanding of elite European pace that completely matches Moriyasu's tactical blueprint. But hey, it's not all just young stars tearing it up in Europe. You've also got a guy that Father Time seems to have completely forgotten about, Yuto Nagatomo. At 39 years old, he's heading into his 5th World Cup, which is a historic first for any Asian player, by the way. His locker room leadership, his positional intelligence, and just his pure understanding of intense high-pressure tournament moments, absolutely invaluable to this group. But listen, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. We really have to talk about Section 4, overcoming major injury setbacks, the Mitoma and Minamino problem. The Samurai Blue have hit some massive roadblocks recently, specifically the completely devastating loss of 2 of their biggest attacking threats. Without Brighton's Kaoru Mitoma and Monaco's Takumi Minamino, what they lose is sheer unpredictability and individual brilliance. I mean, remember, Mitoma scored the winner against England and was absolutely vital against Germany and Spain back in 2022. So what happens now? Who steps up? Well, this shifts a massive creative burden right onto Takefusa Kubo to generate those chances, and onto Feyenoord's Ayase Ueda, who is in incredible form, by the way, to provide that lethal finishing inside the penalty box. They're going to have to rely heavily on collective movement to make up for that missing spark of individual magic. So, knowing all that, how do they actually stack up in the tournament? Let's get into Section 5, navigating Group F, the battlefield in North America. Group F is a true gauntlet. We're talking 3 entirely distinct styles of play. First, the Netherlands. Ranked 7th globally, they're the obvious group favorites, packed with elite midfielders and massive physical and aerial threats, which historically has been a bit of an Achilles heel for Japan's defense. Then you've got Sweden, bringing huge size, really direct play, and some extreme set-piece danger. Finally, Tunisia. They topped their qualifying group with a staggering 22-0 goal difference. Talk about a stubborn defensive brick wall. Japan is going to need to deploy those chameleon tactics flawlessly to survive 3 completely different types of warfare. Statistically speaking, Japan arrives sitting at 18th in the global world rankings. As the de facto second-ranked team in this group, they are actually in a really strong tactical position to advance. Sure, they might not be the favorites to snatch the top spot from the Dutch, but if they lock in that defensive discipline, especially against Tunisia and Sweden, taking second place is a highly realistic outcome. Which perfectly sets up our final section. Section 6, the ultimate World Cup destiny, breaking the historic barrier. Okay, final verdicts time. What can we actually realistically expect from the Samurai Blue in 2026? Well, they enter the tournament as a highly credible dark horse, a team completely capable of reaching the quarterfinals. And honestly, this isn't just media hype. Armed with Moriyasu's repeatable tactical system, a deep bench of European-tested players, and a seriously proven giant-slaying track record, they aren't just crossing their fingers for a miracle to get out of the group stages anymore. They expect results. The entire narrative has completely shifted. But standing right in their way is the ultimate historical hurdle. Japan has reached the round of 16 4 separate times. 2002, 2010, 2018, where they suffered that absolutely gut-wrenching last-second loss to Belgium, and in 2022, falling on penalties to Croatia. They have never advanced past that point. So I'll leave you with this. After decades of meticulous planning, tactical evolution, and building a true generation of world-class talent, do you think this is finally the squad ready to completely rewrite Asian football history and smash that round of 16 barrier once and for all?